Right, guys, just want to chronicle some more nonsense from Sweet Baby Inc. This is an employee of Sweet Baby Inc. and they admit that the goal is, quote, burning the games industry to the ground. Yeah, it's not going to happen though, is it? Let's be honest. Because Sweet Baby Inc. employees are now not being hired by game developers because game developers have cottoned on to the fact that if they hire these individuals and these companies, which is presumably why Sweet Baby Inc. has now been, has removed Square Enix from its client list. These companies and developers have realised that they don't want to hire these people. They can't work with these people because, yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. It's bad time, ladies and gents. So let's take a look. I'll leave this article linked down below, but please do check it out and hit subscribe if you're new and you like videos like this. So basically, there's a Sweet Baby Inc. employee named Cameron Wild who claims to be a they/them, and I mean it's a bloke obviously, and admitted that his goal is to burn the games industry to the ground. Now, I think there's some really revealing stuff in here in terms of just like how they describe, I guess, where their state is in the world, right? Their position in society. And it's just one of absolute self-loathing. And you can see what I mean in a minute, I'll show you. But just bear in mind everything that they're about to say, right, is from a position of self-loathing. And it's admitted self-loathing as well. So it says here, in a presentation titled How to Get Away with Murder, Subverting Genre Expectations at the Game Developers of Color Expo, discovered by YouTuber Kirsch, Wild introduces himself saying he's a narrative designer and sensitivity reader with a company called Sweet Baby Inc. So Cameron Wild, who according to Moby Games worked on Tales of Kenzara, Zao, Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, Alan Wake 2, The Crew, Motorfest, Kingdom 80s and God of War Ragnarok, then declared, quote, the stories we tell each other are way more than entertainment. They are how we create debate and preserve our collective values and beliefs. And we can and should make better, more expansive, more representational content. Now, this is true, right? Stories have long been one of these things where you can impart morals. I mean, a big thing in the 80s and 90s was children's TV shows would always have a moral at the end, right? It was a very moralistic approach. I mean, even right the way through to things which weren't, for children, like Star Trek, for instance, that had heavy moral focus, right? It was always about moral quandary. That, say, like Star Trek, it was a utopian society. They learned all these lessons and they would travel around the galaxy or space or whatever, interacting with these societies that were dealing with racism or sexism and all these things that the Star Trek utopia had, squashed, basically. So it was always about morals. And again, He-Man, you remember the end of He-Man was always like, well, blah, blah, blah. And even Scooby-Doo. I remember even Scooby-Doo would have a moral focus. So he's not wrong when he says that the stories we tell each other are more than entertainment and they are about pushing a collective value and beliefs. But then enter this self-loathing prick, then yeah, you're gonna get an issue, aren't you? So there's a slide titled Cool, so why am I here? And one of the bullet points literally says, we want cooler stories, a safer world, burning the games industry to the ground. All right then. So in the next title, the next slide titled, So Why Am I Still Here? One of the bullet points states, to prove that space where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. So remember, ladies and gents, view all of this through a perspective of this individual quite literally looks in the mirror and hates themselves. So, quote, this is what they said, quote, a lot of us who are really fighting for more inclusive games and storytelling don't have a choice when it comes to discomfort. There you go. There you go. He hates himself. He literally hates himself. He is trying to push and change games for everyone because he hates himself. Because he thinks he's a they, them. He looks in the mirror and he's very confused. He needs mental help. Okay? Right? There's no two ways about it. This is a person that literally hates himself. A lot of us who are just existing don't have a choice. All of us don't have a choice to exist. I mean, you could kill yourself, I guess. Obviously, don't do that. But I'm just saying, everyone is born. You weren't asked to be born. You're born. You're here in this. You exist. Were you asked to exist? No, of course not. This is a nonsense statement. But this is through the lens of someone that hates themselves, right? Quite literally. Again, these two things. They don't have a choice to be, in comfort. and a lot of us who are just existing don't have a choice. So quite literally, this individual hates themselves. This individual works for Sweet Baby Inc. This individual wants to destroy the video game industry. And it says this, which makes this really hard often, but recently I started realising that discomfort, or the place where whiteness doesn't have to live, is where some of the best stories are told, and it's where genre storytelling lives. This is nonsense. Absolutely pathetic. It's just insane. Like, it's actually insane. The stuff that this individual says is insane. And, you know, they explain why Blazing Saddles is his favourite film. The reason why I love it, beyond some truly Mel Brooksian slapstick humour and fart jokes, Blazing Saddles is extremely aware of social inequality and finds its humour in that darkness. Which means I can laugh in a way that is cathartic. It's a movie that isn't making jokes about me, but for me. And I think that's really awesome. Because you can just tell in the text, but it's also a fact that Brooks worked with black writers to make sure the jokes came at the expense of whiteness and chipped away in an absurd social hierarchy. It's deliberately and unexpectedly a narrative that contributes to the liberation of people like me. It isn't respectful, it's offensive, but yeah, it offends the right people, which to me is the point of truly incisive, intentional genre work. But FYI, this individual then goes on to hate Django Unchained, right? Like, they hate Django Unchained and what Tarantino did. So he then points to Django Unchained being an example of basically insensitive and bad stuff. So they say, so a context-free version of art is supposed to make people uncomfortable. As an auteur, Quentin Tarantino feels like someone who grasps after edginess when they don't really have any human tragedy to explore the depths of. They don't understand that growth comes from trauma, sure, but it also comes from joy. He holds a no pain, no gain mentality that I think is unshakably rooted in white supremacist patriarchal values. Ah, yes, okay. Death of the Edgelord. When the black critics came out with savage think pieces about Django, I couldn't have cared less. If people don't like my movies, they don't like my movies. And if they don't get it, it doesn't matter. This was Quentin Tarantino. And it says this, I don't care what black people think, is kind of suspicious coming from a guy who gathers them to him all the time. Insane. No, doesn't care what some black people think, which is perfectly fine. And it just continues. This person is insane. Legitimately insane, right? Like, actually insane. And it just continues. It's just utter nonsense. Good genre starts with representation on the creative team. No, it doesn't. The foundation of the project must be solid. No, it doesn't. The identity of your characters, specifically your heroes, must define their challenges in the narrative, but it must also define their triumphs. No, it actually doesn't have to. You can have universal things where all people relate to. Good genre must consider its relationship to power. No, it doesn't. This is nonsense. Anyway, this is just your latest drivel in Sweet Baby Inc. And like I said, Sweet Baby has now removed Square Enix from its list of clients. You can see it here. This was previously. Now it's gone. So hopefully this is people waking up. Hopefully. But let me know what you think down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. These people are legitimately insane. And like I said, this person literally hates himself. There's no two ways about it. They hate themselves. They view the world through a very combative lens and will be destined to be, well, I mean, either probably like a school shooter or something, which could happen, to be fair. I know that's said quite flippantly, but these people do this all the time. Or just a miserable sack of shit for the rest of their life. Anyway, cheers, take care, bye-bye now.